Yay, it worked. Cool. I don't know what that means though. Oops. Go slideshow. Okay, so I had put all this together, I swear, yesterday, and some of it seems to repeat a little bit what she talked about today. But so, hey, I guess I'll just reiterate some of it. But basically about 6-8 weeks ago, I don't even remember when it was, I did a call for the Push to Diamond group or whatever we called it, and kind of talked about this and thought it'd be nice to share with the whole group kind of some of the stuff that I do every day to try to fit all this business stuff in while dealing with my 6 scary children every day and all the other stuff that we got going on. So I'm going to share that with you. But first I'll run through the Changing Lives Club. The goal for the team this month is 600 points. We've got 10 more days. I don't even know what the date is today. 11 more days or 10 more days. What month is it? It's June. We have 10 more days. There's only 30 days in June to keep working on it. But these are the ones I pulled these off yesterday. So sorry if they were, if you updated and I didn't get it on there. But so far we've got Joan, Kylie, Bridget, Emily, Megan, Mariah, Elizabeth, and Meg have already made it. Some of them by flying colors. And then on my way, we've got Ryan, Mackenzie, Aaron, Kristen, Lindsay, Serena, Dominique, Shannon, and Jenny that are already got a few points on the board there. And then we've got some rank advancements, and I hope I say everybody's name right, but we have Terry Meacham. Hope I'm saying that right. And I pulled these pictures off of, and I just pulled people out of the Project Fearless group, so if I missed anybody, I apologize. But we have Terry Meacham, Christine Dubé, and Elizabeth. This is the one that's been scaring me for 24 hours. Elizabeth Irizarry. Am I close? Good deal. That have advanced to Emerald. And then we've got one new Ruby, and that would be Amanda Waite. And Ruby is one that we don't see very often, but that's basically somebody that's got 2 emeralds underneath them and is just working on getting the rest of the individual coaches underneath them in order to be the advanced to diamond. So she's actually kind of got, in my opinion, the hard part done. The rest will be very easy for her. Next part, I guess, is just kind of about me. Some of you know me, some don't. I did a call in December and kind of mentioned all this, but there are my 6 kiddos over there on the far right. That's not a super recent picture, but with all the pictures I take and put on Facebook, I don't have very many of them like all together because they're not all together at one time, but there they all are. Whoops, I just moved a thing in front of them. Tyler's the youngest one there. He's almost 2, and then my oldest one is going to be turning 13 on Sunday, so I'm going to have a teenager here soon. And in South Dakota, when you're 14, you can drive, which is scaring the heck out of me, thinking that my child might be driving in a year. So that's a little crazy. Anyway, but I've been married for 14 years. It'll be in July this year. We have 6 kids. I went to school for a very, very, very long time. I have a law degree, a master's in business, and then I figured I should get my CPA because I love taxes and I love numbers and accounting. My husband and I have a law practice that we've had I've been working with him for 14 years. I think altogether he's had it for 17 years. And I work in that sort of somewhat these days, not a whole lot. And then I teach online classes. I've been teaching classes for a long time. I decided once we had kids, I didn't want to send them to daycare and spend hours away from them, which is part of the reason I got into Beachbody. But that's why I started teaching online classes so I could work from wherever and I could kind of have my kids running around while I was doing that. I've always loved health and fitness. I taught aerobics when I was in high school. That's how I got through law school. It's just always been a huge part of my life. And one of the reasons I got into Beachbody was I wanted to be able to still be involved in that industry while not being able to devote time every Tuesday morning to teach a class like I used to. So this way I can help people with their health and fitness without needing to necessarily be in front of them teaching a class that I can't make a commitment on. The other big part of our life is gymnastics. All 4 of my daughters do gymnastics to some extent. My 2 older ones spend about 30 hours a week in the gym, which is an hour away from our house, which means that I also spend 30 hours a week at the gym or somewhere near there. So again, kind of reiterating the whole need to not have an 8 to 5 type job, and I don't. So I talk to my coaches, and when they're like, I don't know how you do it, you have all these kids, but the fact is I have probably more flexibility than most people because I'm not at a job from 8 to 5 every day where I can't be on Facebook or I can't check in or so even when I'm at my office, I can check in. Wherever I'm at, I can kind of check in and do Facebook stuff. But I don't get to do it in very long spurts of concentrated time. It's always very distracted time, and it's probably not very good time. And I've learned a few things about that over the last few months as well. So that's kind of me. The next slide is just kind of a typical day for me. And these pictures I have are exactly how it works usually, except I don't have a phone with a cord. I don't know if anybody owns those anymore, but that's exactly how it is. I've always got a kid banging on my computer when I'm trying to work on it. My almost 2-year-old has realized that if he kicks my computer, I have to stop working on it and that he can get my attention. And usually when I'm on the phone, he is screaming. It seems like I can't believe I'm all by myself actually right now. You guys have all seen him jumping around on my computer when we've done these calls before, but so that's kind of like how it is. And so my day, I get up early in the morning because I like doing that. I'm sure Joan is just like freaking out now, because why would anybody ever want to do that? Yeah. I like getting up early. I like beating my kids, and my workout time in the morning is kind of my me time. And then this is our summer schedule. And then we're on the road by 7:30, and I spend an hour in the car driving to the gym, and I'm at the gym for 5 hours. And during that time is where I'll talk a little bit how I work my day during that time. But during that time, we run errands, go to the grocery store. And my older 2 daughters practice that long, but my younger 2 start classes at different times. So I'm running them to class, and my little one likes me to watch her and whatever. So it's not like, oh, good, I'm sitting at the gym for 5 hours, I can just sit and work. It's all chopped up, sporadic, whatever time. And there's parents in and out of the viewing room there that like to talk and stuff. So it's not very good time. And then after we get done with practice, hopefully tomorrow's going to be the first day since summer started a month ago that we are all coming home and going to spend the whole evening at home. So usually there's errands or dentist appointments, or today we were at the orthodontist or a baseball game or something. And that's where I spend another hour in the car. I will say my 13-year-old, I've had her help me with my power hour. Like I'll have her run through while we're driving in the car and go through posts and find things that like she can comment on for people. So she's starting to get helpful in that respect. So I try to make use of that time, but in the summer, hopefully we get to be outside on the lake, because that's why we live on a lake that's frozen 9 months out of the year. And it's an hour away from my girls' gym, is because we get to hang out on the lake. And I try to reserve that time for my family. And in the evening, like I said, if we're lucky, we're home, but usually we've got swimming lessons or something kind of going on. I try to get my kids to bed by 8. If that was entirely under my control, that's probably how it would be. And I try to get to bed by 10 because I get up early, but that doesn't always go that way. So that's kind of like a typical day. During the school year, it's just flipped. I'm at home in the morning, and in the afternoon, we're running around to the gym and doing all that kind of stuff. So, that's our day. So here come my top 10 tips. My first one is to start and end your day out right. I am a huge fan of Gabby Bernstein and Marianne Williamson. And Marianne Williamson always talks about how when you start your day by turning on the TV and watching horrible news or scrolling through Facebook and seeing crabby people, like that's your attitude for the whole day. And so I really do try very hard to wake up in enough time to do at least a meditation. And I don't know if Gabby Bernstein's got a million albums, and some of them are like 5 minutes long. And I always thought, like, I tried meditating once a few years ago out in the backyard because I was by myself, and I set my timer for 10 minutes and was going to sit there in silence and like not think. And I was like, after 60 seconds was like, this is over. I can't, this is ridiculous. So I always blew it off, and I blew it off, and I blew it off. And then I finally started, as I read her books, Gabby's books, started really doing it and realized 5 minutes of her talking to me and kind of telling me kind of what to think, I guess, or what kind of thoughts to have is like so relaxing and helpful. And so I starting my day with that every morning. And 5 minutes is 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long. And even if I wake up late, I really still try to get that 5 minutes in because I just don't feel right the rest of my day with it. So I try to start with something positive. I also, like I said, I wake up at 5:30, but I don't usually start working out till 6. So I've got a half an hour just to kind of write down my day and plan what I'm going to do. Like I said, I teach online classes. So like tomorrow is Tuesday, and that's the day that I grade everything. And so I know that that's going to take a huge chunk of my day. And I try to find places to put all the stuff that I want to get done in a day, because then I just feel better. I also try to make a list of the stuff I need to do, because if it's up in my head, I worry I'm going to forget about it. And then that just takes more thought and more energy. And so I just try to get it all down on paper in the morning before I start. And that's something I always do on paper. And I'll talk about paper versus phone, for me at least, in a bit. But there's my to-do list. Workout. I know some people like cannot work out in the morning, don't have time, hate it, whatever. I do it in the morning because it will not happen. Otherwise, I rarely miss a workout because it's like top priority for me in the morning. And then in the evening, I try to reflect on my day, and I call it bliss writing. And I just get out a notebook and I try to write 3 pages in my notebook of just my thoughts for the day. And I don't know where I got this tip. I read it somewhere, and it's like, doesn't matter about punctuation or spelling or anything, just ramble through it and just write it all out. And sometimes I go back and look at it and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like a whole bunch of negative crap about how rotten this was and that mean lady or whatever. And sometimes it's the good things that happen throughout the day and what I'm thankful for. So it's just kind of whatever comes to your mind, just to get it all out on paper. So when you go to bed at night, you're again kind of going to bed with a kind of a clean mind and you don't have nasty dreams. And then I try to do a little meditation again. I know Gabby's got one on one album. There's a morning meditation and an evening meditation. And so some days I'll get in the habit of doing the morning one in the morning and the evening one at night, just kind of end my day. And then I watch very little TV. In fact, I don't even know what the recent TV shows are, but Grey's Anatomy is my favorite. So I get done meditating and I watch Grey's Anatomy until I fall asleep is kind of what happens in our household. So I watch I think I'm on episode number 4 because it started over again. So that's kind of my little guilty pleasure there before bed. Oh, and I always have ice cream while I'm watching Grey's Anatomy before I go to bed. So that's how I kind of start my day and end my day. The whole part in the middle of it is not near that like relaxed and organized. So as I get into tip number 2, find yourself a system. I have learned with 6 kids, like I need to have systems. So like just a totally non-Beachbody related one. When I get up from my workout, I come upstairs and I get out everybody's cups and I pour their juice and their milk and get their vitamins. Like I have a procedure and a process for doing it. My kids have to sit in the same spot every day because guess what happens if they don't? They always fight over where they're sitting. That also helps so that I know who finished their juice and their milk and who finished their vitamins. So you have to have like a system in order to, make things run smoothly. And so like I use a paper calendar for all my Beachbody stuff. And I don't know why I do it that way because I use my phone to put like dentist appointments and all my kids' baseball games and things. But I have my paper stuff is all for my Beachbody. So I have a notebook that I use just to put lists of stuff in it. I've got like, the dream team page and potential challengers page. I try to write down everybody I've reached out to, but I do that on the fly so much that I'm not very good at writing it down, but I try to write those down. I've got like a page for post ideas, conversation starters. I've got pages in there for notes. I mean, the notebook I don't think I have it up here, but it's just tattered because I just write a whole bunch of stuff in it. And it's where I just try to keep all my ideas rather than trying to remember them in my head. It's all done on paper. And then I also have my calendar for Beachbody is on paper as well. And I write down in there, events for people, weddings, babies. I've got this one woman that I've been chatting with, I think since she was like a month long in her pregnancy. And she's like, as soon as I have this baby, I think this is her 5th kid. And she's like, I want to do what you're doing. So I've been just every once in a while, I'm like, how's it going? And now she's 2 weeks out, or anytime now. So just try to write stuff down in there. And then I always write down when people made their purchase or signed up as a coach so that I can get back with them later to remind them about their next shipment. I put stuff in there like, challenge groups, like when I'm going to start them. So like if you're going to start a challenge group on, isn't July 4th on a Monday, like the worst day for it to happen? Does anybody else think that? Like I keep thinking challenge group, but it's a Monday. And anyhow, so like I would want to make sure I started posting about it a couple weeks ahead of time so that people have time to get interested in the group. I have time to chat with them and just kind of writing stuff down to stay organized. A lot of times like this figuring out a system thing, you don't just like do it one day, like my vitamin and juice and whatever thing with my kids kind of happen over time. And so like what I do if I realize that we have a problem in our household is I write it down and try to come up with like ways to figure it out or process it. So like one of the things I've always used to dread was setting up a challenge group, not running it, not whatever. I just hate setting them up and I couldn't figure out why. So I finally, I guess I did like Gabby says, and I tried to think about my fear about it. And I realized like I want to like do something and get it done. And what I was doing was I'd start the group up and then it wanted a picture and I'm like, oh crap, now I got to go make a picture. So I'd go make this picture and I'd come back. I'm like, shoot, it wants a description. Well, I got to get the one from my old group because it's the same kind of group and it would take me forever to do it. So I finally started doing the cover photo first. So it was ready to go in there. And then I made a Google Doc. I use Google Docs where I think a lot of people use Evernote, a Google Doc with all like the new challenge group stuff. So the description, the first few posts that you always do that are kind of the same about introduce yourself and take your measurements. And I have all those in there. So then I can just copy and paste them into my group rather than having to hunt for that stuff. And it seriously makes setting up a challenge group like 5 minutes where before it seemed like it would take me half an hour to do because I'd get interrupted or I'd have to go. And I am like, so I have no creativity at all. And so making a cover photo is just terrible. And a lot of times I'll just reuse them too if it's the same general kind of group. And whatever on it. So figure out systems to make things quicker so that you aren't putting them off, and it also just isn't taking up quite so much of your time. Number 3, the good old Power Hour, the Power Hour tracker, and I have that on the next page, and I'm sure everybody's got a tracker that they use, and I've got my favorite thing. But what I like about having the Power Hour tracker is that it's called the Power Hour because you can do it in an hour, but I don't have an hour where nobody's bugging me or I don't have to go run somebody. So that way, at least I can write the names down of my friends, or the people I friend, or write this stuff down as I go. So then when I get here at 9 o'clock at night and go, oh my gosh, I haven't reached out to anybody, I know that's all I have left, and I'm not going to forget it. Where if I just kind of do it in my head, you guys have all heard my story about when I stopped doing the Power Hour and what a disaster it was. Well, what I was doing was I was doing it in my head. Well, then I get to bed at night and I'm like, oh, did I reach out to people? Well, I can't remember. I don't care. And then I just would not do it. And so this way you make sure that you do it, you write it all down. And if you don't get it all at one shot, you do it then. And I'm going to talk later about what I've learned about multitasking. And I kind of sound like I'm like, backtracking on that, but you can do your Power Hour kind of anywhere. I know, like when I'm waiting for my kids to get in my car from school, or standing in line at the grocery store, wherever, you can always whip out your phone and kind of do your Power Hour when you can like find that little bit of time to do it. Sometimes if like I'm lucky enough to get done with my workout before my kids wake up, I'll go through and do a bunch of stuff down in my basement before they get up. So you can kind of do it anywhere. So don't freak out if you can't do the Power Hour in that 60-minute slot. She talked this morning, I think she called them power blocks or something to that effect, of just finding chunks of time. And you can plan for this. If you know that you have a half-hour lunch, know what parts of the Power Hour work good to do there. So like I usually do, and I have that half hour in the morning, I usually do like friend requests, and I respond back to anybody that messaged me overnight or after I went to bed. I try to do that right away in the morning, because then you can kind of carry that conversation throughout the day. But maybe you need to save and do all, pick a half an hour of your lunch hour and do, a few of the tasks. But if you try to make it consistent so that every day during your half hour lunch hour, you reach out to people and invite to challenge groups, it'll just become a habit, and it'll be a system for you, and it'll be quick, and it'll just be kind of the way that, that you do it. So really, I don't know how you guys feel, but I love crossing stuff off. So when you cross stuff off, it just makes you feel good to see that. Or when you're filling in your tracker, here's the tracker this is my favorite one. I don't know why I use it, but, or why I love it so much, but that's the one that I use. And I know lots of people have different ways that they do it. I know that like last week, Tara talked about, she doesn't even use anything like this. She's got like a binder or a notebook system where she just every day adds to those different sections in her notebook. And that may work for people too, but just make sure that you do it every day. It's very, very important. Number 4, planning and scheduling. I've talked about this already in different places, but plan your to-dos. And I'll talk about kind of how I figure out what my to-dos are every day in a later slide, but take your notebook out and do post ideas when you think of them. I know that even if I do think about that while I'm working out in the morning, that it just helps my day flow a little better. I've been using Hootsuite to do my challenge group posts just because I was getting overwhelmed with, oh, it's 10:30, I haven't done this yet, and oh, I need to do this and do that. And so I try to use Hootsuite to schedule them. This week, I didn't get it done last week. I was too busy laying in the sun. So I didn't get them all scheduled. So I'm kind of going on the fly a little bit this week, and I'm not liking how frazzled I feel, but try to schedule those ahead of time. I was always under the belief that if you use another system to schedule your posts like on your personal page, that it made Facebook not throw them out as much. But then I heard something here recently that's like, oh no, that's totally not the case. So I don't know. I guess I wouldn't use it for your personal posts, because I think those should be kind of more, a little bit more as you go in your day and what are you doing now kind of things. But that's always kind of an idea. And then using your calendar and planning ahead. I already talked about that as well. Number 5, to-do list. So I used to be of the believer that I would take like a sheet in my notebook and I'd write down everything I had to do, and then I'd cross it off, and it felt really great to cross it off, until like that list was getting longer every day and I was just getting like beyond overwhelmed. And I'd go to bed every night thinking I didn't get anything done today, and I just felt crappy about it. So I started, and she kind of talked about this a little bit this morning too, but now I kind of try to start, I have kind of it's reverse engineering, but I start with like my yearly goal. So maybe your yearly goal is to be, a 5-star elite coach, and then to figure out like 90 days what you want to accomplish like in the next 90 days or in, 3 months of that. And then the monthly goal, I heard somebody talk about, like, this is kind of more of a theme. So like my monthly goal theme is to like stop getting negative about when things don't go right. So to just be more positive. So that's just kind of more of a theme rather than like a get 10 coaches or whatever goal. And then figure out when you look at your 90-day goals, like if my 90-day goal is to be a 2-star, then I would need to make a list of all the things that I need to do in order to accomplish that in 90 days. So, and I would try to come up with like 12 things, because that's where you get your 90 days is 12 weeks. So come up with 12 things that you want to accomplish during that time to reach your goal, and then go through and figure out where those fall weekly. And so like for coaching, I think a lot of it is, reach out to 10 new people every day and invite 5 new people into coaching every week or whatever it may be. Some of them may be a little bit repetitive because you're doing the same vital behaviors every day and every week. But write down what all those things are that you want to do every week. And then from there, you can come up with your to-dos that you want to do every day. So, and like she mentioned this morning too, and this is kind of what I found too, is 3 projects in a day is probably enough. So like tomorrow I said that I grade papers. That's one big task. And I can't decide that I'm also going to do a blog post and, reach out to 50 people and do, a monster power hour 3 times or something. Like that's just more than your brain can like digest. I've also learned something, and I think this is on a later slide, that just because you have time to do something doesn't mean you should say yes and that you should do it. You have to give yourself some downtime. So just because you have time in your day, like I said, I get home at 2:30 and until 5, I want to play outside with my kids. I don't want to be, well, that's free time. I should be like listening to something or making a list to do something or something like that. You got to give your mind some time to breathe. So try to limit it to 3 projects in a day. Some days, like I end up with 5, especially if it's like a little thing, like set up a challenge group. To me, that's not a really big project anymore. But try not to make a really big, but make sure that like you've got 3 projects on your list every day that are associated with your 90-day goal. So again, I've got on my to-do tomorrow grading. That has nothing to do with my 90-day goal, because I don't want to be a online professor forever, but it's something I gotta do or I get fired. So some of that won't necessarily go with your goal, but try to have 3 things that go towards that goal every day, just to make it so that you're getting closer to the goal. And then I know, like for me, like even putting together this PowerPoint on Friday, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, it's the 20th of June and I have to do this PowerPoint or do this call. And I just got like freaked out, overwhelmed by it. Well, when I sat down to do it, it wasn't as hard, but try to start with like a little thing of it. So if reaching out to 10 people every day is like scary big for you, then decide that you're going to start with 3 in the morning before you go to work. And then you've already a third of the way done. And then doing 7 isn't quite as big of a deal anymore. So always try to break your task down into something little, because then it doesn't get like so big. Because otherwise you just won't do anything. You'll just sit and do nothing, and you don't want to do that. So those are my to-do list things. I don't use this to-do list that's on here. I just thought it looked pretty, so I put it on there. This one's a really quick one, but I always talk about how because people always say like, I can't believe all those kids and how do you handle all of them? And I didn't get all of them all of a sudden one day. Like they didn't just show up on my doorstep. Like I've had time to get used to them, and my older kids help with the little ones. But I've really trained them to like understand. Like my younger one doesn't quite get when I'm on my laptop to stop kicking it. But the older ones are like, okay, well mom's doing her work now, so I'm gonna play or whatever. But I also try to make sure that they're entertained. I don't just like say, all right, go play now. But so you kind of have to train the other people around you, but you also need to respect them. So you can't just sit on your phone all day long and not expect other people in your house to get irritated or expect your kids to get bothered by the fact that you're working all the time. But, it's always a good idea to share your goals with other people. I don't know that my kids care that much, especially not my 2-year-old, but share your goals with people so they kind of know why you're doing it and what you're doing. But you need to be respectful of all of them as well, so that they're not feeling like you're just dumping on them and working all the time. But I guess the big thing on that side was just kind of is about training your kids or your dog for that matter. Maybe you have to train your dog not to bug you while you're doing your power hour. Give them a treat or whatever. But it's just kind of letting people know around you what your goals are and what you're doing, and be respectful of them so that they'll respect you back. Number 7. So this has like been my big like aha thing recently, is about the multitasking. I was always really proud of the fact that I was like the multitasking mama. Like I did all these things that this woman did here, except for the martini, I had a bowl of ice cream and the baby was nursing. But I did all of those things all at the same time here. And you guys have probably seen me do it. I remember the very first Zoom call I got on, I didn't know you could see me. So I show up ugly as hell with this huge bowl of ice cream and I'm nursing a baby. And I'm hoping that the video was like from here up so you didn't like see all that. But I was always like, and I bragged about the fact I could do all these things at once. Well, I feel like now that I've kind of learned about this, there's two different kinds of multitasking. There's the listen to personal development in the car on the way to work. And there's maybe listen to personal development while you're at your job, because you can maybe do both of those things at the same time. But what I've learned is this is what I would do when I get to my office. I'd turn on my computer. I'd open up the software to do our accounting stuff. Well, while that was loading, I'd open up the internet and I'd see, oh, I have a Facebook message. And I'd start messaging that person back and realize that my accounting software was open. And so then I type my password in. Or did I already do that? Maybe I already did that part. Anyway, well, whatever was loading. And then I'd go back to this and then I'd hear my messenger ding and I'd have to check on that. And then I'd remember that I should post. And then I'd, and like, you don't get anything done when you're doing that. And especially if you're trying to balance the checkbook at the office and you're trying to message people on Facebook and your kids are crying, you get nothing done. It takes more time to do it than it is to just sit down. And as hard as it is, and I always have 20 tabs open on my computer to not click on the post that you just did to see how many people liked it. You just have to not do that because you ruin your momentum. And we talk about this all the time, even in, business. When you take a break from business, you lose your momentum. You got to keep going with what you're doing. So if you're working on setting up a challenge group, finish the stupid challenge group and then go on to looking at your messages. So if you can, turn off your notifications. A lot of times on my laptop will push the mute button so I can't hear anything that beeps through, so I don't know that there's emails or whatever coming through, because you see the email and then you want to respond to it right away, or you want to read the blog post from somebody or whatever. So try to resist the looking at other things while you're focusing on your business. Like, set aside that time just for your business. And again, like I say, I sound like I'm like ignoring my own advice when I talk about responding to people while you're waiting to pick up your kids, but you're not like trying to respond to people on Facebook and balance your checkbook at the same time. Like, that just doesn't work. Your brain can't do all of that and do it very well. And that's kind of like the same lines too, like trying to run, I've done this before, trying to run 2 different challenge groups at the same time is not easy, because I got myself, into that last summer. And it's just you focusing on one thing, you're going to be a lot more successful and you're not going to be as frazzled and stressed out, and you'll get way more done. And I had to put on here because I couldn't find out another place to put it, like stop the scrolling through Facebook. And to be honest, I really hate Facebook. And I think that people that that are Beachbody coaches that hate exercising, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it's something you just got to do in order to be successful at it. But Facebook's not something I love scrolling through. So that's not a real big problem for me necessarily, but I have other things that distract me. Like, I love reorganizing all my folders and putting the visuals all together in this folder and putting them here and stuff. We all have things that we get distracted by that we should not be doing while we're trying to focus on our business. So try to quit multitasking. Seriously, try it for a week and you'll find that like your life is just so much easier and you don't feel so like out of it and distracted all the time. I have found. I still have kids screaming in the background while I'm doing it, but I've narrowed it down to working on one thing while the kids yapping at me. But okay, number 8, I already said this, just because you have time to do it doesn't mean you should do it. I'm terrible at this. I will get myself into these things. Like, there are these videos that are done by, I can't remember what team, and they're the 60 Days to Diamond. There's like 16 of them. And I decided one week that I was going to listen to them all. And I was going to do it while I was working out. So I was listening to these videos for 45 minutes while I was doing my workout, because I'm not doing anything else with my brain during that time, right? And honestly, like, I found that the more I was doing that, and I was listening to my personal development book in the car, and while the kids, like I have on here, when they're watching a movie, I'm, listening to whatever, doing whatever. Like, you don't have time to come up with any good Facebook posts when all you're doing is listening to video and learning. And, you can only say so much about your personal development on Facebook. And so you have to take a breath. And as much as it is, you want to build your business and you want to stay up late and do it all, there are nights you just have to go to bed early because you're too exhausted to do anything the next day if you're not. I always equate, when I used to teach aerobics, I used to teach like 8 or 10 times a week, and I never went to anybody else's classes. And all of a sudden I could not come up with any new choreography. I was like, I just couldn't anymore, because I didn't go and expand my horizons doing something other than teaching aerobics. And so you just have to sometimes you just have to put the phone away and the laptop and the personal development and all that stuff, and just like kind of live in the moment and enjoy what you're doing, so that you can think. And now I found that when I'm working out, I have more random thoughts about post ideas and things I want to do, because I'm not stressing my brain out while I'm doing that. It's kind of more my free time thinking instead of listening to and you can't take notes while you're working on anyway. So then you just feel like, oh shoot, I'm going to forget that. And then you're all stressed. So try to carve out a little bit of time where you're not doing something every day, as hard as that is. And we talk about giving up TV and all that, and I'm all for that. But sometimes you have to eat ice cream and watch Grey's Anatomy because it refuels your brain. So there's number 9. The last 2 are pretty easy. Don't skip your PD because your life sucks if you do. I mean, it just makes you crabby. It doesn't have to be on a book. I don't really have time to ever read a book because my kids sit on me when I do that. So I do Audible all the time. And so funny, she mentioned The Go-Giver this morning, and Tara mentioned it last week. And she mentioned it was Monday night at like 9. Well, I had it listened to and read. I had to drive my girls to Iowa. I listened to the whole book before I got home from Iowa the next day. And it was a very, very, very good, it was a very good listen. On it, probably some I'll listen to again. I know there's 2 more books that go with it. I haven't jumped on those yet because I have a whole list of books to read, but it's just a really good lesson. And like she was talking about this morning, give without the intent of, or without trying to get something back from somebody else. And that's really kind of what, this is all about. Even if somebody doesn't buy something from you, if you've helped them, lose weight or find a happier outlook on life, it's all worth it. So, and I mentioned earlier about those 60 Days to Diamond videos. They were really great videos. So if you're looking for something, some training or something, go on YouTube and search for them. There's a ton of great books out there. And when in doubt, always go back to Spirit Junkie, right? That's always a good one. So, but don't skip your PD. 15 minutes, listen to it while you're driving to work or while you're making your kids breakfast or something. And the last one is really a long one. Give yourself a break. I'm terrible at laying in bed at night and going, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I sucked at that. I didn't do this. Just give yourself a break. And if you get done with the day and you didn't finish your power hour, no big deal because you have it written down and you know that tomorrow you better reach out to those 5 people on top of the ones you have to do the next day. But give yourself a break because if you are too hard on yourself, you will end up stuck in a really big hole that's really hard to get out of. So that's it. That's all. And I'll look up for questions or comments or whatever. I saw something go by, maybe.
Does anyone have questions? Thank you. I thought that was an awesome call and such amazing tips.
Great call, Rachel.
Thanks. Wait, so buffer. That was one thing that, because it can be rebuffed. And I found out on Hootsuite after I did a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to reuse them. And they said there is a way to do it. You have to save them first and then you can reuse them over and over again if they're saved. But you can't ever delete that challenge group or whatever out of your
thing, or you won't be
out of your thing, or they're gone. I found. But yeah, I was so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Buffer though too. I think you can't delete the group out of there and then find.
Or it's gone.
Buffer. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
It's
nice to reuse them, but
yeah, I love the idea of really compartmentalizing and realizing that multitasking doesn't mean being all over the place all the time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm super guilty of that.
I'm awful.
Really super guilty of it.
Most people.
Well, I used to always brag about how good I was at it, and I realized that that's not anything to brag about.
Then you're not paying attention to anything.
No.
Kylie said, awesome call. Kathy said, thank you. It was an awesome call. Meg said, such good tips. Thanks so much. Nicole said, awesome. You're a super mom. Proud of you. Katie said, great tips. Favorite way to restart a combo when you get crickets?
Ooh, that's cool.
That's the question for you.
That's the question of the day. I guess I kind of just go back and look at what people have posted and stuff and see if there's something on it, or go back, scan through their message because you reached out to them for a reason initially. And I'll admit my combos lately, I'm having kind of a struggling time with it probably because I'm multitasking too much, but go back through the conversation and see something else that you chatted about. And like I said, go back and if they were going on vacation or having a baby or something else that you have in common with them, is a way to just kind of restart it. And if you were talking about a program or fitness or whatever, ask them how they're, how are they doing on meeting their goals? And sometimes you just can't restart it. I found, I guess, kind of.
And for me, I would just go and look. Honestly, if I sent them something that's a video already, or we've talked about the challenge group, I just jump back in and follow back up with that. If it's somebody that I started a conversation with and, we were talking and then they fell off and I've maybe answered them a couple times, I do use the Chris Reed, did I do something to upset you?
That's a good one.
And a lot of time people will be like, no, oh my God, no. And you're like, okay, well, you're ignoring me.
Mhm.
I feel like the Sour Patch Kids shirt.
My favorite candy.
Yum.
Yeah. Or you can just do like you did in the first place. Go look at new stuff that they've got on their page and start talking to them about that.
Well, I think it's hard. We have to remember too that people aren't as addicted to their Facebook messengers as we are, and they don't check them because there's people that they say, "Oh, I check this once a week. I didn't even, know where I." And I'm famous for doing this. I'll read something in my car, but I try not to respond back in my car, and then I totally forget to go back and look and do it, unless my kids do it for me. But
Go back and comment and like on a couple of the people's posts that you're.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
starting
too, and that will
conversations
remind them of you. So, or like, yeah.
yeah, focused scrolling through Facebook, not just random.
with. Yes, go right to that person's page that
Yeah.
you can follow up with and make a specific comment on something that you can relate to. Yeah.
Right.
Hannah says, Kylie said the other day she's sent the same people messages on Instagram and that has worked. That's true. She did say that. So sometimes she'll go into Instagram and do it because like Rachel just said, not everybody is on Facebook all the time, but maybe they're over on Instagram more. So you could definitely, try that and test that out.
Yep.
But I do find too that Ryan is right. Like if I go over and start liking and commenting on like their recent posts, then all of a sudden they'll come back and message me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Mhm. I don't know whose baby that was, but that was hysterical.
Oh, that's my ringer.
Oh,
On my phone. That's my Facebook thing.
all right. And then Carlene said, thank you, Rachel. Very helpful tip. So unless anybody else has a question, I think we'll let you go. Thank you so much for putting this together for us, Rachel. I think that's awesome. I will go ahead and post the recording in the team page and on the YouTube channel. And also, just a tip too, Rachel was saying the 60 Days to Diamond trainings that she was watching. If you want to just go look at my YouTube page, they're all on a playlist right there.
That's probably where I found them on there. And they are really helpful. That's a really good.
They are. I mean, honestly though, I've been doing that a lot lately, just having on like YouTube trainings from like coaches in the background or just playing national wake up calls in the background like all day. And those are the things that like, I'm not needing to sit there and take like notes on or anything. Like I just listen to it because it pumps me up because you'll hear something and you're like, oh, yeah, that's why I'm doing this.
Or it refreshes your memory on something. Oh, I haven't been doing that, or I should think about doing that or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, it's always great to have personal development books that really pump you up, like whether it be like Tony Robbins or The Go-Giver or, Gary Vee or Gabby and those sorts of things. But listening to actual coaches talk about things that they're doing, like specifically in their business every single day, totally opens your mind and expands it to like different things that you should or could be doing in your business. So I think it's kind of important to do a little bit of each day for personal development rather than just like, I just want to feel good today. Of course you do. And you should do that first. But then during the day, Gary.
Gary.
Wow, that was distracting.
And just one other tip, if you're ever looking for like a string of like inspiring things to watch or listen to that coaches talk on where they're giving tips and things like that, you can always YouTube search The Surge because they have those, and then you can just play The Surge in the background. Carl will talk, coaches will talk, and they'll just give tip after tip after tip after motivational story. And it's kind of neat because I think we did that once and just kind of helped with reaching out and ideas about what to post about and all kinds of cool stuff.
All right, guys. Thank you. We will.
Bye-bye.
Everybody start pushing. You got to make Success Club. We've only got 10 days. I'll see you all on that list.
Bye-bye.